that no, you are not welcome in my domain. In my domain, my personal property, you are you. No, what is the mechanism? So mechanism is code. So there will be an order, you will close down, and they are able to close the premises because they can defend it in the court. So obviously this person will go to the court. That this state pollution control board is harassing me, or they are. So court will examine. Yes, there is a rule. They can do it. It is in their jurisdiction. So whatever they have done is right. So then only this private polluter or the polluter, not private polluter, the polluter will allow it. So all those mechanisms, those who are actually protected through judicial process, they come under this category. In each category we have 2-3 different methods. We'll discuss them in detail. However, we have to be very we must understand. So whatever we are talking about, this optimal level of pollution we are talking about, whatever way we are bringing, whatever way we used to bring parties to that optimal level, that is not sufficient for getting the, so that we will see. So what for sufficiency, what you need? So when you talk about the optimal condition, so there are two things. One is necessary condition, and then you check the sufficiency. Sufficiency is not guaranteed because always you are saying this is optimal level because the cost is optimal, minimum. But one thing which we are missing, for every tool or every methodology, there will be some transaction cost. We'll discuss about that. So when we talk about the total cost, actually it is MDC plus MCC, fine. But then there is another component, that is transaction cost. The cost incurred to bringing parties to this level. So you will understand what I am saying. Right. Anyway, this is just a caution. So first we will be talking about judicial procedures. There are 3 procedures which take help of judicial mechanism. So the first we are going to discuss is liability law. Second is property rights, or we call it Ocean method. Or some text you will find property rights. And third is regulations, emission standards. Right. Okay, what is liability? I think this was the most primitive way of internalizing damage cost into the system, into the economic system. You remember in the last class I talked about litigation system of United States. Specifically I talked about that because this principle of individual liberty and freedom, which is verbatim, which is being taken verbatim in United States administration, actually became a very good tool for getting this optimal solution. How? As I mentioned that people are free to go to the court, they file lawsuits. Suppose, so this again the same situation, hatchery and pepper mill. So it is naturally what will happen? Naturally hatchery will go to the court and file a suit saying that because of pollution coming out from paper mill, I'm my production is hampered. Obviously, paper mill also will argue that this is a common property. But since they follow the principle of, and now all over the world we have this kind of mechanism in place. So even in India, Supreme Court, High Courts, they take these kind of suits. But now we have a specific court, a specific tribunal. We know anyone who knows this tribunal? NGT. Have you heard this name? NGT. National Green Tribunal. So it's a specific tribunal for dealing with such kind of suits. So what will happen that hatchery will go to the court, say that because of paper mill, this is the kind of loss I am suffering. Of course, paper mill will argue that this is a common property, I also can use. But the same argument will go against them, because all over the world after 1972 Rio Conference we have accepted the principle polluters pay. The one who is polluting has to pay, and it is as a common sense also we can understand that. Common property does not mean that you can take the right of another person to use that common property. Even if I go with the principle of common property, so hatchery and paper mill both have equal right. Since paper mill was upstream, they used it, but they have right to use the water, but they don't have right to stop hatchery. So whatever condition of the river they received, they have to give the same condition of the river, right? So this lawsuit will go against them, and how it works actually, very simple. They go to the court. So what court will do? So hatchery will say, sir, this is my loss, and they will present some data. So since there is no control for paper industry, so this is the total damage, right? And they will ask for the compensation. This is the compensation idea. And let's assume that court has a mechanism through which they can check the data presented by the, so they are experts, those who know about those who can assess the damage, right? So either by going the data given by hatchery or with their own expert, court also could get this value that yes, this is the damage done by the paper industry to the river. So court will pass order and ask paper mill to pay fine to hatchery. This is the damage you have done, so you pay this fine to hatchery against this. Now what paper mill will do? What will be course of action from paper mill? Will they be ready to give the total amount to them? Yes or no? What will they do?
They will argue that the MVC cost.
So argument is over. Court has given the yes. What will they do? They can't do anything. They have to pay.
They will bargain with the government or something. How much to pay?
They cannot bargain with the court. Yes, bargaining will happen, but with whom?
Hatchery.
Hatchery. Why hatchery is going to bargain? Because it is their actual loss. Why would they go bargain? Simple, na? By this damage is actual damage to hatchery, right? So why would they go bargain? Yes. Bargain is fine. I agree on that. I mean, actually, bargain is not the term, but yes, bargain will happen. But it can't happen with court. And in this case, hatchery is not going to bargain. We see hatchery is in any case getting this compensation. Court has passed the order. So what is the incentive for hatchery to bargain? Yes, quickly.
They would try to reduce any such future losses that they might incur.
How?
Like,
You are moving towards that. How? You can see this
they will
graph.
try to go in the backward direction.
Exactly. So bargain will happen within paper industry. Should we discharge everything or should we control something? And so they don't want to spend this much. For them, this is the optimal total cost. You can see any solution. This is the best solution for paper mill. So instead of giving the total compensation, they would like to start controlling, because what you can see, marginal control cost here is 0 and damage cost is very high. So if you decide to control one unit, it is much cheaper than paying the compensation. And till this point, when MCC becomes equal to MDC, they'll keep on doing it, isn't it? Beyond that, they won't do it because the control cost will become higher. So for paper mill, the best option is to discharge this much, discharge this much and control this much. Right? Let's say some figure is 50, it is 30, so or 20. So the best solution for them is control 30 units of pollution, discharge only. Then also they are giving compensation to hatchery, right? But their total burden of paper industry is the least in this case. Is it okay? It's clear, and it will work, right? Now, advantage. There are advantages and disadvantages. Let us understand some advantages, then I will come back to something else. Right. And this is going to happen because this is a common property. Okay. And once the court passed the order, it will be just ratio 3. Okay. So let us talk about the positive sides. Alright. So one of the positive side about this is that we don't have any prior information of anything. Hatchery actually presented the data. Then court took the help of experts and they lead to. So optimal solution is also not known in the beginning. So paper mill keep on doing calculations, right? And then they will finally reach to this thing. So that means it is actually, once you start the process of liability or once the suit is filed, this is working like a free market. So paper industry itself, or paper industry and experts or hatchery, they are interacting and they are finally bringing to. So this is one big advantage, right? So you cannot say that this expert committee has decided this level, that expert committee they have done it wrong. It is all market driven. It is all driven by marginal cost. 2. It is working on the principle of economic incentive. Paper industry, they are not forced. Nobody is saying them that you don't pollute. Do, if you want to do it. But then pay to hatchery. So court is not saying to them that stop polluting. Court is saying, because of your pollution, this much damage has been done to hatchery, so pay this much. So it's a purely economic incentive. And of course, it has got a moral appeal. Polluters pay incentive. This is following that. So who is paying? Polluter is paying. Let us talk about disadvantages also, and then we will. Okay. So this is slow and costly process. All of us know that how codes function, how slow they function. Okay. And the process is very costly. Who is filing the suit? Of course, in this case, HL is filing the suit. But through whether are they filing the suit on their own? Who is fighting their case in the court? Advocates, and you know how much they charge, right? 2. Normally, who are the pollutees? So there are 2 entities. One is polluter, another is pollutee. So in this process, who is the litigant? Pollutee, the one who is receiving the pollution. So the example which I have shown to you is a 2 industry, hatchery and paper mill. So paper mill is polluter and hatchery is pollutee. There are 2 entities. Okay. But normally, in the real situation, who are the pollutees and who are the polluters? Polluters are affluent people. Like for example, industries. Right. Or otherwise also, if you also go to the domestic sector, who is polluting more? Who is using the car? Who is running motorcycles and scooters? So, consumers, but affluent consumers. Right? So, let's say if I compare a commuter who is using its own car, both of them are commuting, let's say 20 kilometers a day. One is using own car and another is going by public transport. Who is polluting more?
Own car.
So it is always polluters are affluent, they have resources, and most of the cases you will find that pollutees are having very low resources. Now, we are saying that, okay, if you are polluting, if you are sufferer, go to the court, become the litigant. But who is going to bear that cost? The pollutees, we are, so until and unless there is a lawsuit, polluter is not paying. Suppose hatchery does not go to the court, then what will happen? This damage to the environment, it is unnoticed. Nobody is bothering because hatchery does not have capacity to file a suit. They don't have those resources, or they are not aware. They don't have that kind of knowledge, and which is true in case of lower socioeconomic row. They really do not understand. If you see, in case of lawsuits which are filed in India, whether in Supreme Court or whether it is in NGT, look at the people who are bringing these matters in front of the court. They are actually not pollutees. They are activists. They are bringing these cases in front of the court because of their interest. Right? So they are actually educated people. They have awareness. They have those resources. Many times they themselves are advocate. Okay. So you just find out all those names. You can search. There are many such names which are those who are actually advocates. Right? So pollutees, so it is very unfair to pollutees. 3. The example which I showed to you, very simple example. 2 parties. One is pollutee, another is polluter. But in actual situation, things are very, very highly complex. Let's take one example. Let's falsely assume or incorrectly assume. Just I'm giving this example, that's why. But it is an incorrect assumption. But let's do it. Let's incorrectly assume that the air quality problem in Delhi is due to the stubble burning. Right? Now, in that case, hypothetically, who are the pollutants? Population living in Delhi. And who are the polluters? Farmers. It's a complex problem. Look at the numbers. Who is going to sue whom? It's very difficult, not possible. So, although this is an extreme example, but in case of industry also, they'll keep on shifting the blame. Suppose there are mix of industries, or there is a third industry, downstream hatchery. Hatchery also must be doing some discharge. The third industry, now how this third industry start litigation? Whether he will file a suit against hatchery or paper industry, because both are polluting, or he will be filing suit against both. So it's a very complicated process. Okay, so it works only when we have very small and identifiable parties. Okay. Now, what does it mean? Can we say that liability law procedure is a failed procedure? No, I won't say. Why? Because it has actually created a lot of awareness. An initial, the work related to environmental economics, lot of input actually came from this procedure. As I said, that it started in 50s and 60s in the US. So a lot of awareness came to this subject. A lot of research started because in the beginning they appointed experts to calculate the damage cost. So it really helped a lot. Even in India, today we see many such cases. They are actually, part of this procedure. I'm not sure how many of you heard about the case where Supreme Court put a fine on one organization, Shri Shri Ravi Shankar. They organized one event, although it was an environmental event in Delhi, floodplains of Yamuna. So Supreme Court fined them for 5 lakh rupees. It's a very good example of liability law. Right? I'm not discussing the merit and demerits of the case because it is controversial. Many environmentalists, they say that this fine position was wrong. Yes.
So दूसरी class
ये clash कैसे करता है? होता है क्या सर clash? फिर? Okay, so that is one case. There are several cases. NGT, time to time, they keep on imposing fines and right. So this is a kind of earliest form of public policy tool. So you can justify that in early stage you could justify them. And mostly court actually didn't deal the damage problems. They mostly dealt with the littering problems, right? Small issues. Okay, so environmental nuisance was actually tackled by this. So what we need is a more complex approach, which can deal some of these issues. But before that, I'll just take one more thing. Now we'll be actually talking about 5 procedures, 3 in judicial and 2 in martial procedure. Now what should be the basis to come? So first we will be discussing them, but then ultimately we need to compare them, right? So evaluation has to be there on 5 points. Number 1, efficiency. Next is cost, or rather transaction cost. 3, fairness. Okay. 4, ecological effects. 5, moral and ethical questions. So, for example, if we look at this moral and ethical question, okay, because we are saying full interest pay, we are following the principle. Ecological effects, which is very difficult to say, because assumption is that there will be a suit. If suit is there, then yes, there will be ecological effects. But if suit is not there, so fairness. Apparently, it looks like that this procedure is very fair because it is talking about full interest pay. But actually, in implementation, this is not fair. Why? Because it is giving extra burden on pollutee who actually does not have resources. Right? So, in that sense, it is not fair. Final outcome is yes, following the moral and ethical principle. But the whole procedure is not fair towards government. Okay? He has to go to the court. He has to identify the damage. Then only he will ask for that compensation. No? So, transaction cost, as I mentioned, that this procedure is very slow and costly because, and remember, and we were saying that this is optimal solution, but sometimes transaction cost is very high, which ultimately go to the society, right? So this is also efficiency. Yes, you can say that fairly good because once you reach, nobody is influencing this point, so it is being identified with the help of expert. There is no preset value for this. Okay. Fine. So let us come to the next method, which should deal with more complex issues. Involve judiciary. But in a different role. What is the role of judiciary in this case? They will examine damage cost, right? And then they will give the orders for compensation. Okay. Now, once the order is there from the judiciary, implementation is a part of it. Okay, that's fine. This method is on the name of, so the second method is Gaussian approach. And it is actually in the name of the economist Ronald Coase. He actually brought this idea. He was the one who promulgated this idea. What he suggested, what is the basic theorem? Basic theorem is the proposition. And what was the proposition? That the problem of common property is that nobody, you remember we discussed when we were talking about, when we started discussion on externality. Only one thing we discussed, that was ownership right. We discussed that in case of common property, market is not working because there are certain conditions for free market to happen. And one condition was ownership right. And we discussed that also. So in case of common property, ownership right is not existing. So Coase, what he suggested, that failure of market is not because of anything else, but because of ownership right. What does it mean? If you take the example of that hatchery or paper mill, he mean to say that problem is there because river is a common property. there is no single owner of this river. Let's make either paper mill or hatchery owner of the river. And if whosoever become the owner, whether paper industry or whether hatchery, once we decide that there is single owner to this property, automatically optimal solution will be achieved. You got it or not? What he is trying to say? He is trying to say that river either should belong to paper mill or it should belong to hatchery. It becomes the individual property of either of these two. He also said that the solution will be achieved irrespective of the ownership. It looks very odd initially. So, the natural things which come to our mind is that if property rights are given to paper industry, then why would they control anything? They will not. Right? And then how will we reach to this level? There is no way. They will be deciding everything. So this is what he proved, that it won't happen like this. There will be negotiation, now bargaining. You mentioned. Who mentioned that bargaining with HP? You mentioned. You. So now actually bargaining will happen. Why? See, very simple. There are two cases. Either it will be given to, rights will be given to hatchery or rights will be given to paper industry. Let's assume that rights are given to hatchery. What will happen? Hatchery has the right of limit. Will they allow paper industry to discharge anything? No, they will say no. So, if they do not allow paper industry to discharge anything and paper industry still need to work, what they have to do? They have to control everything. Zero pollution. Right? So, what will be the cost to them? This is cost to them. This area. Right? Now, what is the solution for them? They will offer a bribe to hatchery. Obviously, because they also need to survive. So, anything above this. Why? Because their control cost, let's say, compare this, is so high. And what is the MDC? MDC is very low corresponding to this. Let's say this is 5 unit discharge. So controlling 45 units. And 5 unit damage is, so 5 unit damage is very small, this quantity. But they are saving this much of quantity. So it is a win-win situation. And hatchery is ready to accept because they are getting more than the damage. You got it or not? Again I am repeating. Let's say there is a situation, hatchery has rights. So they will ask paper industry to go for zero urate pollution. Industry is not allowed to discharge anything. Okay. So the last unit which they are controlling. So this 50th, this is 50 now. So 50th unit, how much they are paying for that? This is the marginal cost. Right? Suppose they go to the hatchery and say, sir, we will just treat 49 unit. We will just discharge only the last 1 unit. Okay? So for 1 unit discharge, how much is the damage cost? Very low. So HE will say no, if you discharge this one unit, there will be damage to the environment. My production will go down. What paper industry will say? Okay, I will pay for that. Whatever damage is done, I will pay for that. And why he is ready? Because damage cost is very small, control cost is very high. And this bargain will continue till MDC becomes MCC. So paper industry is always ready to pay, always ready to bear damage cost till this point, because till this point control cost is higher. And HE is ready to accept it because they have no problem, because they are the compensation, they are getting the compensation from paper industry, whatever damage, right? Similarly, the opposite case, rights are given to paper industry. So what they will do? They will discharge everything. There will be total damage to the environment. HE. Now HE will come to them. Sir, this is our loss. Whatever is your control cost, we will pay. Right? And they will bargain till this point. Beyond that, they will also not bargain. So, in both the cases, what is happening? We are converging towards optimism. Is it clear to all or not? And it is just happening through their mutual negotiation. So, what is the external intervention? External intervention is right is given to one particular party. That's all. No third party is involved in negotiation. They are doing it. So, what is happening? It is nothing but free market. So, what you did, just ensure that one party has the ownership. And why it is called judicial process? Because this ownership is protected by judiciary. Right? So, it has to be legally protected. Okay? Okay. So, the most exciting point about this is that the problem is being resolved by arbitrary assignment of property. It is, this arbitrary assignment means what? This arbitrary assignment is we are giving the property right to X party. Y party can use it. We are not saying that exclusive right. But then, since it is his property or her property, they can claim whatever they want. Right? So, that is the point of assignment. Another is very minimal intervention of public authority. See, one of the reasons why coercive measures, these are called coercive measures, means by force you are trying to implement something. So why economists are against these coercive measures? Because they feel that it is against the spirit of free market. So in this case, what is the role of public regulator? Very minimal. Just they are saying that the right should go to this party. That's all. And we have seen that in both the cases, we are reaching to the same solution. So ideally, it is a win-win situation for both. And third, already I mentioned that negotiation is happening voluntarily. There are several challenges. So I'll start with the first challenge. At the end, I will take the economic challenge. Number one. Again, the problem which was there with the litigation. problems are very complicated. It is not that only two parties are lying on the bank of river, actually in industry. There are several stakeholders, right? So at a particular time, you can give rights to large number of stakeholders. So the real world situation, sources of pollution, multifaceted, impact is also quite complicated and diffused. Second problem, the cost of negotiation and enforcement. Again, very high. Because one has to define, specify property rights, you need transaction costs for that, then regular negotiations and all. So transaction cost is also not very low. What is going to happen if you are not able to identify? So in this case, ownership is given to, they are situated very close to each other. So whosoever is given the economic right, he is able to enforce that right. What does it mean? Hatchery has a right. Since they have a right and paper industry is close to them, they can stop them. This is my property, you cannot use it. Okay? What happens to the transboundary problem? River is flowing from India to Bangladesh. River Brahmaputra is flowing from China to. Even if we decide, and who is going to decide how the ownership will be protected, who is going to protect, whether it is going to be international court, and then even if it is international court, we know there are so many issues. Who is going to listen about this? See, all UN agencies are asking Russia and Ukraine to stop war. Have they stopped fighting? No. So now in case, let's say, China is polluting, it is coming to Brahmaputra, even if international court says that, okay, this property belongs to India or China, then who is going to honor this? No. So in transboundary issues, it is a big problem. Now the economical consideration. One of the issue which I mentioned that during the negotiation, one party is bribing another party. Right? Okay? And as we saw that whichever party has the right, optimal solution is same. But let us examine in a different way. Suppose I just take one quick example and let's all of you do this calculation. This is total pollution generation is 200 units, optimal is 110, means 110 is being discharged, 90 is being controlled. Okay. Then there are two, and this is 30. Marginal cost is 30. Okay, let's take this situation. This is 45, 50, and 230. Let's take this one. Now hatchery is the owner. So after negotiation, paper mill decided to pay hatchery. So how much amount hatchery will be getting? Quickly. So marginal cost at this point is 30 rupees per unit, let's say. So how much amount HT will be getting? Discharge is net 10 unit. Simple. HT is the owner. MCC, MDC at this point is 30 rupees. So how much amount HT will be getting?
80.
Why half? No, it is the total 30, and this is per unit compensation they have to receive. Because beyond this, their control cost is higher. So they will be ready to pay 30 rupees per unit. That is the negotiation. So how much they are paying? 110 into 30. How much is that?
300.
अभी थोड़ा समझ में नहीं आ रहा है. Okay, we'll discuss it. Now I come to her point. What she mentioned. How did she do the calculation? Actual damage. How much is the actual damage? Half 30 into 10. Right? How much it is?
1.50.
This is a situation. Damage is actually 650. Ideally, ethically, paper mill should give this compensation to hatchery. But since hatchery has ownership, will he be accepting this? No. Because hatchery knows that anything beyond this for paper industry is more than 30. So even for extra unit control, they will be paying 31 rupee, 32 rupee or whatever. So paper industry is ready to compensate by 30 rupees per unit discharge. Beyond that, hatchery is not going to bargain. It is business. There is no morality, there is no ethical consideration. I have the ownership right. Right? Yes, paper industry won't pay more than 30 because if hatchery asks more than 30, they will say, okay, we'll control because I'll not give you because this extra unit control, I need to pay 30 rupees. So why would you pay? Why would I pay you more than 30? So negotiation will stop at 30. Is it clear? But if you look at the total transaction, they paid 3,300 rupees, while their loss was only 1,650. Where this extra money has gone? So hatchery become richer by 1,650 rupees. Paper industry become poorer by 1,650 rupees. You can be happy that okay, they are the polluters, so let them pay for it. But this is not, this compensation is not social compensation. This is a private compensation. Hatchery is not going to use this for controlling pollution. No. It is hatchery's extra profit. Right? Number one. Number two. What will happen if ownership right is gone to paper industry? Same. Now they will also, now just imagine a situation where the paper industry is, and if similar points we have. So paper industry is getting richer by 1,650. They are asking hatchery to pay. And in this case, hatchery is suffering. Is it ethically correct? No. On one hand, we are saying polluters pay principle. On another hand, we are forcing polluter to pay. He is paying for survival. Not at all ethical. Right? So that is one of the biggest issue. Morally, as I mentioned, that it is against the polluter's pay principle. What it say? The end justifies the means, right? So both way. In one way, one case polluter is paying, another case polluter is paying. Fourth, all is based on assumption. We are talking about negotiation. But what will happen if one party ceases to function? He says, okay, we will not bargain. Let's stop. So, from economic consideration, you can say that, okay, fine. But from ecological consideration, this is not a good situation. Suppose rights are with paper industry and hatchery stops functioning. And they can do that on their own will, or paper industry also can force them. Why? Because paper industry, once it pollutes, it does not have any impact of that polluted water. So they say, okay, let us not bargain, forget about that money, we have enough profit margin, let's not bargain with them, let's throw out of them from the market, and we will be happy forever. It can happen. See, paper industry is in the market, their economic production cost and everything, they are already operating in the market, they are already making profit. They are not surviving on the brine which are they getting from, which they supposed to get from hatchery. So they can take a wise decision. Okay, let us get rid of hatchery permanently. Let's not negotiate. Okay. So this is possible because assumption hypothetically quotient theorem is fine, but in actual what will happen, it's very difficult to say. So if you look at the liability law, let's examine both liability law and quotient property, quotient method or the property right method. In both the cases, role of regulator is very minimal. In one case, court is just, acting on the suit, liability suit. On another case, the regulators, with the help of court, they are enforcing property right. That's all. So they have no role in deciding what should be the optimal level of pollution, and so on. Okay. So once lawsuit is finalized or property rights are assigned, interaction of parties lead to the efficient outcome. However, in both the cases, use in real world situation is very low. When actually this Coase theorem was proposed by Ronald Coase, for some time, environmentalists and economists both, they felt that yes, we have got the answer. Slowly they realized that this is not a practical solution. Okay. Okay, so in 70s itself or late 60s, most of the government around the world, they came up with a third procedure under this judicial methods, or third method under this judicial process, that is called direct regulation method. most coercive method means setting up of standards, emission standards, which all of you know, discharge norms. So when we say that the industry has some discharge norms, how it is set? So for example, they have standards like 30 milligram per liter. pH should be between 6 to 9. TSS should be, actually it is less than now, 50 milligram per liter. So such standards, I'm just giving them that. Means regulators, they have identified the optimal level of pollution with the help of a lot of information available from the market, on MCC, MDC, through experts, through experiences, and they come up with standards that you are not allowed to discharge. So when you run a vehicle, there are certain emission standards, you cannot violate them. Means your exhaust should have this much maximum carbon monoxide, this much maximum sulfur dioxide, and so on. Right? So these are regulations legally protected by judicial bodies. So they are framed, implemented by executive, like for in India, Ministry of Environment and Forest through Central Pollution Control Board. They do this exercise, they frame the regulations, they implement them. And this process is done through gazette notification. So Parliament framed the acts, regulations based on inputs they get from Central Pollution Control Board or Ministry of Environment and Forest. Once this act or regulation is notified, and it is notified through gazette, then it is implemented by Central Pollution Control Board. Since it is part of act and regulation, so it is protected by judicial proceeding. Right? So anything which is part of act, then court has all right to. So no party can say that I'm not going to follow this order. They have to follow because it is part of the act, right? Otherwise, there will be judicial action. There can be judicial action against that, and all those fines and everything is well defined in these acts. Okay. Now these emission standards, they are of different types. So one type you have seen, concentration type. So I am saying that BOD is 30 milligrams. Okay. Let's do one very simple calculation. An industry is discharging 50, let's say 50 meter cube, meter cube of effluent. Okay. So let's make it simple. 50 liter of effluent. This is the final discharge. Limit is set to 30 milligram per liter. They measured, they did some measurement, and they found that their BOD concentration. BOD, all of you understand? I think in one class we discussed it. If anyone has question on that, ask me. So they found that their BOD concentration is 60 milligram per liter. What will happen? Got the question? Got the situation? Industry or any unit is discharging 50 liter of effluent, and as per the norms of Central Pollution Control Board, they can discharge only effluent with concentration of BOD 30 milligram per liter or less than that. But right now their concentration is 60 milligram per liter. How will they rectify this? Simple. A very simple solution, dilution. They'll dilute it. They'll make it 100 liters. Okay. But do you think that dilution is the solution for abating the pollution? So there is another principle. When we say polluters pay, there is another principle of pollution abatement: no dilution. Right? So that means this kind of approach of emission standard is incomplete. So sometimes they also come up with another. So this is known as concentration based approach. They come up with quantity based approach. Another example of this, so I discussed in one class, if you go to PUC certificate for your vehicle, if concentration is high, what he does, he changes the air fuel ratio, increases the air. So normally if your vehicle is running at some air fuel ratio, which is okay, fine, but just for taking measurement, he increases the air fuel ratio. Because the instrument is not measuring air fuel ratio, it is just measuring the concentration. So air is more, so your sample is diluted. And of course he charges extra for that. It's a bribe, right? So there is another kind of standards, that is quantity based. So we not only define 30 gram per liter, but we also define that you cannot discharge more than 50 liters per hour. Right? It can be independent quantity based standard, or there can be a combination of two, quantity plus concentration. The problem with quantity alone is sometimes concentration is also important. So let's say the quantity of organic load Delhi is discharging into Yamuna. If we distribute this quantity, so let's say the stretch of Yamuna in Delhi is 50 kilometers. Just assume it will be more. Okay. Now, if we distribute this load in the stretch of 150 kilometers, situation will be far better. The problem is the concentration, heavy load at a particular point. That also creates, because what will happen? What happens with that, especially with the water pollution? Around that point, DO, dissolved oxygen, becomes very, very low because the heavy organic load. Because with lower concentration, it allows nature to combat this pollution. Nature can fight with it. But with very high concentration, nature is also helpless. Because DO becomes zero, then everything, so the whole natural mechanism stops, or it becomes dead slow. Right? So quantity based also is not always good, because if unit decides to discharge everything in one day, what will happen? Right? There is another way, third thing, which depends on can we have same kind of pollution load everywhere? Can we have similar norms for Delhi or ecological sensitive areas? Right? Not possible. Can we allow, or another way, can we allow some highly polluting, water polluting industries in Delhi? No, because already we are in a situation where we cannot afford extra load. Or can we allow highly polluting, air polluting industries in Delhi? Or you must have heard the case in which foundries were shifted from Agra to other places. Taj to Guji. What was the reason?
Low pollution state.
Because the sulfur concentration in air was affecting the Taj Mahal. Taj Mahal was becoming so blackening of Taj Mahal. Now one may argue that why double standards, but sometimes you have to. Not every ecosystem has the similar carrying capacity, same capacity to bear the. So third is quality of medium based, and the fourth, on which I have already taken one lecture, technology based. Remember bare minimum technology I discussed when we discussed the charter exercise for good. So you are okay with concentration and everything, but you also say that this is the technology which you have to employ. This is the minimum which you need. So technology based standard. BS4, BS6 is a very good example of it. You are not defining emission standard, load and everything. You are saying this has to be the technology. This kind of engine you have to use. And how it is implemented? If you don't follow them, you will liable to fine or maybe imprisonment, depending on the law, how it is framed. Okay, so we just stop here. And, thank you. So with minor one, we will keep till whatever we cover till Monday. Monday means 9th. Okay. Only one.
प्रॉक्सी मत लगाया करो, हम लोग को पता होता है आपको कौन हो कौन नहीं है। बाय फेस हम जानते हैं। हाँ सर,
तीन जो लास्ट के हटा दो, अनाउंस कर दो।
नहीं अनाउंस किया तो देख लेना कि कौन ले वो एक ही स्ट्रिंग में कोई है, उसी की राइटिंग मैच है।
एक ये अनाउंस कर दो, लास्ट के 3 नाम हो तो बता दें या फिर
लास्ट में नहीं एक्चुअली मिडिल में है।
मिडिल में अरे नाम बता कौन
मुझे लगता है मुकुल कौन है, हु इज मुकुल, वो ही पूरी राइटिंग है सेम।
मुकुल, तो मुकुल भी नहीं मिलेगा। आर्या, पीयूष, अभी जो होंगे वो भी नहीं मिलेंगे।
हाँ ऐसा मत तो डेडलाइन ऐसा मत तो बढ़ा देना अगर मिलते भी है तो
उससे पहले
पहले हो जाएगा ना असाइनमेंट टू कंप्लीट मतलब ये डेडलाइन के टाइम
बहुत आगे तक
वो आगे मतलब नहीं करता
असाइनमेंट
फोर
4 तो बाद में आएगा, लेकिन असाइनमेंट 2 जो है वो लंबा है क्योंकि फील्ड वर्क है।
फोर भी फील्ड वर्क होगा
फोर्थ फील्ड वर्क, 4 इंटीरियर असाइनमेंट, there are 2 group assignments. One is field, another is group assignment but calculation based.
क्वेश्चन बेस्ड
वो उसमें फील्ड